developers turn out to be trash and attack the fans. And you know what? You hadn't played it yet, and so I still try to tell people, hey, don't pre-order. Now, today, Greedfall came out, and of course, Kotaku is upset that it isn't woke enough. Now, I want to take a look at some of the reviews we've seen for Greedfall, and then we'll look at what Kotaku has to say. Now, for people that actually bought the game and played it, Steam is showing a 9 out of 10 rating, 645 reviews, very positive, with 81% of the user reviews being positive. Now, there are some critiques of this game that are realistic. I really wanted to play Greedfall, but I can't very well justify spending $50 on another game when I still have Astral Chain to play and I still have Metro Exodus to play, but it's absolutely going on my wish list. Hopefully by the time I get it, they'll iron out some of the complaints about the game, and maybe it'll even be a little bit cheaper. But overall, a 9 out of 10 on Steam is exceedingly good. If we look at Greedfall on Metacritic, the review score, the critics themselves, now this is based on just 8 reviews at this point. I wonder how many critics chose not to review this game because they didn't think it would be huge, or how many people may have chosen not to review it because of it being, quote, problematic. Based on 90 user reviews, the game has an 8 out of 10. Also solid. We look at OpenCritic. Top critic average, 76%. A little bit low. I think most games nowadays releasing in the 8 to 9 range is reasonable. 10s should be reserved for generational games that change the whole landscape of things. So an 8 to 9 is a reasonable score. Now, the critics that recommend it, however, is significantly lower, with just 66% based on 31 critic reviews. You have Eurogamer, 6th Axis, IGN Spain giving it a 7. It's interesting when you look at who reviews it, who wants it and who doesn't. If you look at, you have 5 or 12 people in the secondary tier, and just 2 overwhelmingly positive. So most of the reviews, according to OpenCritic, are in the middle of the road, but user reviews still remain relatively high. It'd be nice if they showed, if you could separate, maybe I'm just missing it, to try and understand what the overall negative review is. If you remember back when the trailer was announced, people like the now defunct Waypoint were talking about how the concept of the game was, quote, problematic. And here's a good quote, or a good post back from September 6th, just a few days ago. So this game is getting a lot of attention lately due to the idea of being the underdog successor to BioWare's RPGs. I think the game looks great. I'm not going to outright recommend it until I play it, but I'm really looking forward to it. And maybe if I get some time to stream in the next couple weeks, it might be a nice little game to take as a break from World of Warcraft. I'm still playing World of Warcraft Classic about an hour or 2 a day, and that's about all the time I have for video games between working full-time and then YouTubing, 3 to 4 videos a day. I don't have a lot of free time left. Has a Dragon Age Mass Effect feel to it. Spiders, the developers of Greedfall, has done previous RPG foyers with games like Techromancer, things like that. Here's the gameplay video. But immediately, you can already see how problematic it is. A fantasy colonial story with a strong connection to imagery of Spanish-English colonizers coming to, quote, native land that is connected with nature and magic, and then exploiting it for their own gain. Okay, so history? Yeah, it's a lot. It looks like, from a lot of videos I've seen, they wanted to address the themes of colonialism at the heart of the game, but time will tell whether it comes off as exploitative or thoughtful. I already know some indigenous friends. Anybody that I know that's Native American, and I have a cousin that all of their boys are Native American, their dad is Native American, so I suppose 50%. None of them refer to themselves as indigenous people, but whatever, who are already not going to buy it for such connections, despite having a deep love for BioWare-style games. Imagine robbing yourself of an admittedly great video game over ideological or over identity politics. I get not buying a game because you don't like the developer. I get not buying a game for, let's say, going Epic exclusive. faux outrage doesn't seem like a valid reason. I suppose to the people who are deranged and think it is, they feel it's valid. But, you know, there's a lot of people talking about it. And then, of course, Kotaku, you know, has always framed it as a problematic video game. You have this when it first came out, when the trailers came out, Greedfall, a new RPG where the 17th century white man runs into some problems. And there's other articles at the time when they talked about it being problematic. Now, Heather Alexandria is a writer on Kotaku who has spoken on public panels and said publicly that she is, quote, afraid of gamers. She is somebody who writes about video games but clearly doesn't understand video game culture, doesn't understand legitimate criticisms, and sees everything as a personal attack. Every article I've ever seen on Kotaku, you know, Kotaku does have a lot of benign articles, but it seems like every time I'm referring to hilariously bad articles, it's either her or Gita Jackson. They don't really write about video games, they write about, you know, their political ideologies. Now, I have not enjoyed playing Greedfall, the latest role-playing game by Spiders. That's not because it's a poor experience in terms of how it plays. Greedfall offers a BioWare-esque adventure with branching quests, companion characters, and exploration. Greedfall frustrates me because it's a game of half measures. It's nearly 10 hours that I've played so far, and it fails to pull its desperate threads into a cohesive whole. That, I think, is a legitimate criticism. And she goes on to justify that. In its best moments, Greedfall provides a solid mixture of role-playing elements and combat. Quests offer a variety of solutions based on the items that you have, the skills in which you're invested. High charisma makes it easy to charm your way out of tricky situations, while points in the truant trait will unlock a dialogue that leads to alternate solutions. Sounds deep. With points in science trait, you can make key medical deductions and else craft potions that can be used for quest lines in the battlefield. Sounds awesome. In an early quest, my master asked me to do this kind of thing. Combat is less enjoyable, but has a certain degree of clumsy panache. Yeah, okay, you can fight with sabers, heavy weapons, large swords, hammers. You can also use weapons that specialize in magic. Fighting usually plays out like other action RPGs, such as The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. You dodge, you attack, you maybe use a spell to trap the enemy in stasis. If the fight's moving too fast for you, you're able to pause the game, select your next action in an impromptu turn-based manner that makes it easier to plan your next move and micromanage teammates. That seems awesome. That seems like a nice little feature to me. All of this sounds fine because it is. In isolation, judge only from questing and combat, Greedfall is remarkably playable bit of pulp. Whether it's helping my companion solve crimes or outsmarting religious inquisitors or fighting massive beasts, everything works fine, but it's all done in service of a setting and a narrative that is, in early moments, confused. Sounds awesome to me. There's no polite way of saying it. Now we get to how she really feels about it. Greedfall's all kinds of messed up. Wrapping yourself in the pageantry of the 18th century means recreating the iconography of colonial expansion and the native slaughter, which means emulating a time when supposedly great men failed to do what was morally right, opting instead to do what was politically expedient. To merely call this a tension of Greedfall does it a disservice. It's not just a momentary tension, it's the entire game. The visual language at play in this game harkens back to some vile stuff. Why do people feel like they gotta curse all the time? I'll never get that. It's, again, when you write for millennials, apparently, that's what you think they want, but I don't find it a sign of intellect. That isn't to say that no art can be settling, but it needs to be used with an awareness of what this setting actually means. No, it doesn't. It's a video game. It's a fantasy setting. It has magic and giant beasts. Greedfall doesn't demonstrate that level of care. Oh, it's not woke enough. My apologies. It's a set dressing. The magical new world is mostly a playground for the player. Imagine that. Who would want that in a video game? Not a means to examine complex issues. Again, imagine that. Greedfall wears a costume, but perhaps not ignorant to what the costume means, but seemingly unwilling to do anything too powerful with it. In the times I played Greedfall, it's clear that while I can alienate factions, There's a great deal of advantage to placating all parties and maintaining the status quo on tier for D. Don't rock the boat. Make sure to bow before your bad-behaving cardinal, even if you want to stab him. Dedicate yourself to a milquetoast middle path that keeps the peace but transforms nothing. So, I never get these kind of criticisms. It's like, nobody's asking for that video game, Heather. You understand that, right? If people actually wanted their video games to be super woke, there would be tons of them. Between all the giant AAA video game companies out there, it's pretty safe to say somebody would be producing this game if there was a legitimate audience for it. But that's not what you want. You want the game to appeal to an audience, but you also want it to force your beliefs on them. The problem is, these are opposed. These are two opposites. They cannot exist in the same successful game. Greedfall often pays lip service to the hypocrisies of its various factions. By what right does the Inquisitor have to call anyone a barbarian, as he gleefully ends any native that fails to convert to his religion? Yeah, but that's how it was. That's how it happened. Just because you do something in a video game doesn't mean you're endorsing it. Sometimes it can be a display of just how messed up things were in the past, but it doesn't have to preach at the player of the game and tell them so. It's like these people, as I've always said, read at a second grade level. They need everything written in crayon and presented to them very plainly. They don't want the person who's playing the game to be able to deduce their own opinions. They want the game to preach. They want the game to say what's right and what's wrong. I've yet to see these moments of awareness coalesce into anything actionable. I could butt heads with a bad church official and state my disbelief, but I couldn't intercede as he did a bad thing. Okay, again, people always whining about limitations of a video game. There's been very little opportunities to push back. You might prevent a tragedy here or there, but so long as the game pushes the player acquiesce to formality and political decency, there's no room for any transformative action. I'm hoping this changes in the later segments of the game. The fact that Greedfall tosses occasional scorn against colonial powers and dogmatism only makes it more frustrating that this game that appears to be about upholding and the status quo, not enacting systemic change. Okay, so you knew what the game was about when you played it, right? And you played it anyway, and now maybe you were paid to do so, right? But imagine picking up a game, let's say you pick up a NASCAR video game, and then whining that it's about racing cars in a circle and not about environmental change. That's how this reads to me. It's like, oh, I bought Madden Football 20, but they don't talk about underpaying college athletes. 4 out of 10 would not buy. I ask, what is Greedfall saying? Well, it's saying it's a fun game, apparently. What messages does it want to communicate to me? What themes are on display? I have no answers to these questions if Greedfall does, but it's not been kind enough to reveal them to me. Okay. Some players may not be bothered by this. You mean all players. For those players, what will matter is whether or not combat is decent. It mostly is. And may matter is whether roleplay offers options for solving quests. It does. Also, you can probably just get by with high charisma. That Greedfall is a decent RPG and will be enough for some. For me, it isn't. Not right now. That's fine. You write for Kotaku. I mean, this is why you aren't viewed as a friend to the gaming community, while your opinion is laughed at by actual consumers of video games. Because I like how it's pretty telling in this paragraph that you basically poo-poo all the things that matter to actual consumers. People that actually want to play video games. It's like, oh, is the combat good? Yeah, whatever. Is the story good? Yeah, but so what? It doesn't tell people what to think and what to do. It doesn't make any statements. It doesn't correct what I perceive as wrongs. Therefore, game not good. Greedfall might manage to capture some of what made BioWare's adventures great, but it feels aimless. Well, it sounds like you're saying that because you don't agree with what it does. It has so far not managed to speak up and say anything worthwhile, even as it offers meager acknowledgement that something isn't quite right with this game. That lack of conviction so far is a black mark that I cannot get over, which leaves frustration that overshadows everything else. Hopefully the game will continue as I play it. Why wouldn't you stop playing a game you hate? Here, I don't know how to make it clear in an article marked impressions that this is my early impressions with the game and that it's been a complicated experience. I'm eager to play more. Even your own fans are turning on you. This is why early impressions are a joke. This is why I don't like doing video game reviews, and this is why laughing at Kotaku is fun. Hopefully everyone out there is enjoying Greedfall. It seems like a cool concept to me, an interesting looking game, and I look forward to playing it hopefully around Christmas time. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, before you leave, make sure you leave a like and drop a comment on it. It's the only way to help the channel grow in today's YouTube environment. Above, you'll find a link to subscribe, and make sure you turn your notifications on, or if you just want to check out another video, there's one of those up there too. Look, I get it. I get it. I'm just one creator. Who cares about me except for, I don't know, the 600,000 people that are asking to see my damn videos. And it's one thing. It would be one thing if all I had to do was censor my speech a little bit. It would be another thing if there were just some words that I had to avoid. But I'm already doing both of those things. I'm already following every possible guideline YouTube could ask for. I asked for one thing. One. When my YouTube subscribers have gone out of their way to click the bell, or on mobile they press and hold it and choose all notifications, could you send them the damn notifications for one time? Look, I know my channel does multiple videos in a day, but for the first video of the day, I expect a notification to go out for the people that ask for it. It's not like you aren't getting some benefit from me getting my video to my viewers. The video I did today on the Monopoly should have been a huge hit with my subscribers. It is the absolute perfect video. It is a ripe for what I would suspect about a 200,000 view video. It's right now pacing for less than half of that because as I've asked people on Twitter, I said, did you get the notification for my video? How about this? As a creator, how about this? Send my damn notifications. No. Nope. Nope. Here's one person that got it. Nope. Yes, here's another. Here's one. 17 minutes late. No. 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 Last notification I got was last night's Borderlands video. I get YouTube notifications days after they come out. Great. I cover breaking news, so my subscribers get the video days after it's relevant. Nope. But I follow you on Twitter. Nope. Nope. Not so far. Did not. I actually... Again, Forbes release. One of the most highly anticipated games, will probably set all sorts of records in terms of sales, and is one of the most anticipated games of the past few years, second only maybe to Cyberpunk 2077, but you could also argue that the Borderlands community is simply much larger and will sell many million copies, and probably already has. But the reviews have started to float out, and there's been a few curious outliers that I think is worth exploring. When we look at the Metacritic score for Borderlands 3, it's sitting at a healthy 85. Now, you've got some bizarre websites giving the game 94, 95. I'd say, based on what I've read about the game, that's inflated. There are some very real technical problems with the game that reviewers have faced. I saw multiple reviewers talk about it. I think if a game has technical problems, including one that caused one reviewer to lose 5 hours of progress in the game, I can't imagine giving something like that anything above a 9, just simply because these things need to get cleaned up before launch, unless, of course, I was on the take. Most of the main outlets you see are in the 90s to 80s, with IGN, Forbes, Vandal, Destructoid, all giving it 90%. Then you drop down to Game Informer, Us Gamer, GameSpot, all giving it 80s, which is still a reasonable score. Then you start to see something interesting here. PC Gamer give it a 63. Interesting. Now, you also see the Polygon review here, and it seems like two of the most, I would say, sensitive video game news outlets out there. Places like Polygon. Kotaku has not received a review copy, so I expect their review to be equally offended. But Polygon is out there. Now, they don't put a score on the reviews, but I think overall they gave the score a middling review. I wouldn't say it's necessarily negative, but their headline certainly indicates it is. Borderlands 3 review, third time's a chore. When punk rock is played by dentists, they talk about, yes, Borderline franchise, some of the things that they liked, some of the things they didn't like, but they talked about the game in a negative light, in the fact that many of the tasks in the game were tedious. Many of the missions are bland to a baffling degree. One early quest asked me to rescue someone from a virtual reality chamber, which makes me excited about seeing VR in a Borderlands game. That's going to be creative and interesting, right? I'm going to see some wild stuff, and I'm in here, and I'm here for it. Turns out that VR just means a green filter is placed over everything. I finished the mission in the same area I started in, except catching everything is now less vibrant and interesting than it was a minute ago. They also talked about new Borderlands without much new. Summary. Borderlands 3, if it works well at launch, is a competent game. That doesn't sound very optimistic. That feels like a passable continuation of the franchise instead of an evolution. Now, most sequels, I think, you could call a success if they just do that. You have a huge built-in audience that wants more Borderlands. This is a huge problem I see a lot of times with sequels where they go out there and try to be too different, forgetting that 80-90% of their existing audience just wants more or a continuation. It's the same general idea with new Vault Hunters, but with a little joy and danger I fell in love with in the earlier entries. The franchise used to feel adventurous. Now, without any fresh ideas or concepts, it's little more than a holdover from a different time. Borderlands 3 feels safe, oddly careful, especially for a game about anarchy, and worst of all, corporate. Yikes. Yikes. This is, while it seems clear you're getting a remaster, nothing more, it's something else entirely. If one can say that about, Modern Warfare, I think that's talking about. I think that most hardcore fans of Borderlands 3, even if this review comes across as negative, will still see the game as a positive, because if it's just more Borderlands, that's what you want. And ultimately, I think as a game developer, you don't necessarily view that as a wildly positive type endorsement. It's just more of the same. But your customers may be pleased by that, and ultimately, that's all that matters. We'll have to wait to see what the general consensus is for Borderlands 3 on Friday, but it's really interesting to me that there are some wild technical issues still going on just a week before launch. Now, to the PC Gamer review. 63. Borderlands 3 review. Bad jokes clash with great weapons and a looter shooter lost in time. Borderlands 3 is the family circus the family circus by way of Spencer's Gifts. Game with long, earnest quotes about how darn good coffee is punctuated by all sorts of other things. Borderlands 3 walks by dog poo, points at it, laughs, and then burns it. Borderlands 3 stays up till 11:30 p.m. drinking soda and googling crass flash animations, taking detailed notes. It's stuck in the late 2000s. When surface-level vulgarity was enough to qualify as edgy, Borderlands 3 is seriously obsessed with poop, and the series was first conceived. And when the series was first conceived. It's stuck in time, when memes lasted months rather than days, when referential humor was still novelty and not exhausting, when you could point at something the slightest bit abnormal, call it gross, call it a joke. Simpler times, not necessarily better times. Our distance from the era Borderlands 3 evokes makes me feel like a retro game rather than alive and present in modern humor and pop culture. It's simultaneously repulsive and compulsive. An FPS RPG that excels when its weapon generation system spins out weapons that feel great, adorned with broken attributes, capable of turning hordes of goons and bugs and soldiers into a cloud of red mist. Elemental particles, explosions, and big damage numbers. Now, it's interesting to me that you would review the game so poorly based on just your opinion of the humor. we need to see more about the technical issues. I mean, for a 63, that's a pretty low score. You know, if it's all about the humor, you're talking about here several paragraphs so far in about the humor. Tales from Borderlands prove that Borderlands universe could balance goofy slapstick comedy with great character work, gracefully swaying between fourth wall breaking gags about video game cliches and heartfelt drama. Borderlands 3 opts for a best approach, something like a sitcom clip show. The new space travel setup takes the player on tour of the galaxy in search of yet more vaults. Each stop is an excuse to roll out an old character, only for them to disappear and fade into the background as soon as they say hello. You know, you're talking about the new big bads. The Calypso twins are bad behaving live streamers whose motives and histories only become clear in the final act. Until then, they're just two cartoon villains who take a beef with the Vault Hunter, looking to open the same vaults and collect power within. There's not much more besides the obnoxious monologues about how much I suck. Even as a parody of live streamers, they offer no cultural commentary. They're just bad, power-hungry people who would do anything to rule the universe. Glimmers of heart are buried deep. A dug cute relationship between Sir Hammerlock, a charming interplanetary big game hunter, and his new boyfriend on Eden 6. Well, gee, I wonder why that appealed to you. You know, it would appeal. It's interesting that you mentioned that as an important plot point of a video game. It's thus far you said, the game sucks except for these two dudes that are dating. I liked that part. So we know what lens you're looking at. It's so funny to me. Like, none of this is about gameplay. This is the new video game Urinalist. This is a parody of that. Now, when almost everybody, we've got 17 reviews in, and when almost everyone, 18, is giving it universally above average scores, you've got to stand out, right? You've got to be the guy that writes the clickbait. And ultimately, that's what this article is. You know, you have, you know, just loose complaints about the game. You do have some good parts here in terms of, besides a few tough bosses, the true challenge came from deciding whether to shelve this weapon for that weapon. You know, that's also part of the looter shooter variety, always deciding between what's best for that position. I'm partial to these things, and we go on to talk about that. As expected, it's better with friends, though extra enemies and explosions run counter to the refinements. So with so much visual noise against a mess of flat colors and thick lines, I often can't see what I'm pointing at, making well-aimed critical shots in active faith rather than intent and skill. That's a fair criticism. However, that is kind of what Borderlands has always been. Borderlands 3 new Vault Hunters don't break much new ground either. While they each have 3 diverse skill trees and accompanying action-perfect skill squads looking for complement one another, there's nothing in combat that requires close cooperations between classes as of yet. The inclusion of some context-sensitive ping tools, calling out targets, and pointing out loot locations is easy. More Maz summons a mech for some ridiculous damage dealing. Mara is a siren with ghostly arms and control for crowd control and AoE attacks, while Zane can summon a drone. I spent most of the time as Flak, imagine my shock, a robot with a pet companion, great option for solo players. I did this for about 30 hours. By the way, I'm hearing the game has between 30 and 40 hours of main campaign gameplay. That's pretty good. Some people do have this kind of like aversion to longer gameplay. They want 10 to 15 hours, but not for me. If I'm spending $80 on a game, to get 30 hours of gameplay, to me, feels like a good value. Once I finished the campaign, swept up a majority of side quests, I hit level cap in something like 30 hours of play. When the NPCs quit talking and the focus returned to the running hordes of enemies and finding more efficient weapons, I settled into a comfortable routine and remember why I have hundreds of hours logged into Borderlands 2. The clouds of red mist and particle effects returned, the numbers grew, so did my heart. The endgame had arrived. Sadly, the endgame is pretty shallow at launch. It's all about accumulating better loot, but I'm a bit backed into a corner. Mayhem mode modifies enemies. The alternative is True Vault Hunter. Between the bugs, extended non-jokes, self-aggrandizing jabs at game design trends, and a few cameos, I won't spoil, but it made me audibly groan. Borderlands 3 has a lot in common with Gearbox fans as of late. There are a lot of loud, extended posturing while holding on to what everyone really came for as hostage. It's a shame because Tales from the Borderlands found delicate balance of absurdity and self-awareness and genuine heart. A better Borderlands is possible. It's just not Borderlands 3. 63%. And if you read the summary, bugs, reasonable. And I read about this in multiple reviews. The extended non-jokes, okay, you didn't like the jokes. I don't know if that's worth dropping it, you know, all the way down in the 60s. Self-aggrandizing jab at game design trends. So, again, you don't like jokes. A few cameos I won't spoil that made me audible groan. Okay, so you didn't like cameos. I mean, there's very few gameplay critiques in here that I would say warrant a negative score. In fact, when you're talking about 30 to 40 hours of main campaign mode right out of the gate, that seems like a plus. Now, the jokes can be cringy at times, but that's kind of Borderlands anyway. I mean, I can't imagine the actual Borderlands fandom being upset about this. I mean, there's a few people out there like VentureBeat. I'm surprised Dean Takahashi didn't write this. But Borderlands 3 review. Fun action, but some yucks are too yucky. So people don't like the humor? I mean, maybe you're just not in tune with it, I think. You know, Borderlands does have kind of its own unique feel. Gearbox's approach to humor comes off like an 80s teen comedy. It hasn't aged well, and at times I found it offensive. In my review, I find the game that performs well on PC. It's still a good-looking art style. I just wish some of the yucks weren't so yucky. Okay, so the gameplay feels good. You like the weapons, fun payoffs, character progression, solo play. These are all positives. Farscape feeling. Here's what you won't like. Familiar feeling. I disagree with that. Most people that are buying Borderlands 3 want it to feel familiar. If you wanted a different game, you'd buy The Division 2. Or you buy something else if you like this genre of game. Some humor misses. I'm old, tired man. I admit that some jokes and other tomfoolery in Borderlands 3 may not be for me. I get tired of it quick. One side quest is about the Battle Royale in which you get a set of tokens in order to win a night with a leech known as Kilovolt, who croons about the pleasure he's promising at the end of the quest. But your goal is to gain a special set of batteries that neuter Kilovolt so you can end him, which as you do, Moxie, one of the supporting characters who reminds me of innuendo-spewing refugee from Designing Women, throws out taunts about his lack of prowess. It's just tired, especially coming off allegations. Oh my god. We've got our first Mr. Drumpf. You're bringing up a Drumpf reference in your review of Borderlands 3, Jack Wilson. This is why you write for VentureBeat and not exclusively games. This is why you don't resonate with actual video game players. One line insulted me. I think it was a throwaway comment from a psycho as you end it, but when I ended it, said, I wanted to live in a more civilized age. No more wire hangers. I took this as a reference to, what? Roe v. Wade? Get out of here. I almost can guarantee you that's not what the reference meant. Look how woke Gearbox is, forcing people to use they, them for flat. I don't believe that it's... oh, here we go. After publication, Borderlands 3 co-writer Sam Winkler clarified the reference. Fair review. I'll note that the line you mentioned is actually two different lines. Civilized Age line is a randomized battle callout, and the no wire hangers is a line scripted reference to Mommy Dearest. So, exactly. I don't know why your mind would go straight there unless you have TDS. And then a 77 out of 100 is probably a fair score. I don't think they marked it down that bad, but you can see where their head's at in terms of the reviews. So it would appear Borderlands 3 is offending some people's delicate sensibilities. That's probably a good sign for Borderlands fans. And it'll be interesting to watch as more reviews roll out. 2K Games has been particularly stingy with review codes. And to me, 2K Games has burned a lot of bridges in terms of going after that content creator and obviously everything that they did with NBA 2K20. There's a lot of reasons to not be happy with 2K Games and Gearbox, and also Randy Pitchford as a human being isn't the best. But most hardcore Borderlands fans don't care about any of that. Maybe they shouldn't. Just enjoy your Borderlands game, I guess. Seems like the reviews are pretty solid. So have fun if you're going to play it. If you're waiting to get it somewhere else other than the Epic Game Store, then it seems like the game might be in better shape then. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, before you leave, make sure you leave a like and drop a comment on it. It's the only way to help the channel grow in today's YouTube environment. Above, you'll find a link to subscribe, and make sure you turn your notifications on, or if you just want to check out another video, there's one of those up there too. Gross. Yuck. Yuck. Terminator Dark Fate. Ooh, you tried, James Cameron. Paramount Pictures. You are trying to Star Wars the Terminator fandom. Let me tell you the recipe, okay? And maybe you'll find a few coincidences with the Star Wars reboot films and this Terminator Dark Fate trailer. I just watched it. I'm going to give you a reaction, but I'm going to have to do it in a little different way because Paramount be Paramount and they be trying to steal my pennies. Trying to keep a man with two dads down. How not progressive. So, Star Wars reboot for Disney. What do? They drag all the old actors out of the retirement home, cram them in front of the screen to get all that nostalgia. And I'm not gonna lie, it works. In fact, for this new Terminator film, it will probably still work for them too. But before I get into my full take on this, and before I get into the rest of this video, huge shout out to today's video sponsor, NordVPN. I've been using a VPN for the past few years, and given everything going on in today's internet world, it's something I strongly recommend you look into. NordVPN has over 5,200 servers in 60 countries, no data logging. It has an extension for the Chrome browser, which is lightweight, user-friendly from the very first click. It has super fast servers, 24/7 customer support, up to 6 simultaneous connections, which means your computer, your laptop, your cell phone, whatever you want to protect. It also has an automatic kill switch. Keep access to your favorite websites, entertainment, and content, and forget about censorship or bandwidth limits. NordVPN was selected as the best VPN at the VPN Awards in 2018, and right now they're offering a huge 75% off deal off their 3-year plan, including 1 free month. And most importantly, you support the channel when you check it out. Hey, you're going to need a VPN, and even though the offer is ending soon, NordVPN is offering 75% off their 3-year plan, including 1 free month. So, why not support the channel while browsing the web securely by following the link in the description below and getting NordVPN today. You bring back Lando, you bring back Princess Leia, you bring back all the old characters. You try to do a beat for beat, so many callbacks to the original, and none of them are as good. It's because you can't create a magical moment twice. Well, I'm trying to think of a scenario where it did happen. It's, I suppose, possible, but it's nearly never it's nearly impossible, I imagine. Terminator, for a lot of people, in particular the first 2 Terminators, because I think Terminator has had a higher percentage of bad movies than, for example, Star Wars did. Now that's debatable, but for me, it's Terminator 1 and 2, and then everything after was awful. If you're ultra hardcore Terminator fan, there are things to like about each of the other films, of course, alright? But to me, Terminator will always be Arnold, will always be John Connor and Sarah Connor, and that's exactly what they're trying to do in this new Terminator film. Although, are they though? They've trotted out a geriatric Sarah Connor who will likely deliver an excellent performance. I have 100% faith that she will capture Sarah Connor and she will do excellent. The rest of the actors in the film outside of Arnold look ridiculous. The T-1000 does not look intimidating. He looks boring and uninspired. The new female Terminator is unlikable in most of these trailers. Now, that could be the fault of the way the trailers are cut. And I'm going to go through some of that. But this film also has some seriously questionable woke moments. Even Angry Joe pointed them out. And I felt like he was like, oh boy, Jeremy's going to do his thing and he's going to say, get woke, go broke. I don't know. I think ultimately, look, as I've always said, the number one thing that drives whether or not a film is successful is not necessarily the woke to broke ratio. It's whether or not it's a good movie. And at no point has Terminator Dark Fate looked like it was going to be a good movie. You might be saying, Jeremy, why are you commenting on Terminator? Why not? Why you don't do these type of videos for everything? You're right, I don't. I just do them on videos that are on movies that are rehashes of my childhood favorites. For example, Ghostbusters or Star Wars. Or any one of the other multitude of terrible remakes in the past 3 years, that's when I have an opinion. Because if it were a new IP, which is clearly what they should be doing, I would have zero interest in this movie. They're trying to placate me. The trailer is actually decently liked. I mean, it's got 47,000 upvotes, 9,000 downvotes. It's not awful. That's still a lot of downvotes. And there are a lot of scenes in this trailer that I think lead to that. You start off with the Wominator coming in, and then you have Sarah Connor, which allows the Wominator to get the drop on her immediately. Now, that's out of practice, Sarah Connor. Maybe he didn't know that the lady with the "Can I speak to your manager" haircut was in fact cybernetic. She appears to be like a hybrid, almost like a cyberpunk type thing, which I think is a nice touch. You know, I would guess that before full cybernetics are a thing, you will see people doing certain upgrades to their body to make themselves stronger. We've already seen like brain implants that claim to one day be able to fix people who are paralyzed and things like that. So from a lore perspective, I like that. I always love like the apocalyptic flash forwards after Judgment Day. This looks really good. Now, a lot of people are talking about the CG. I don't know. You tell me. A lot of people are saying, the CG looks bad. Here's what I think. I'm almost afraid to rewatch Terminator 2. In my mind, that CG was so good, so mind-blowingly real, that I don't know. I'm afraid it might not hold up if I watch it now. But is it because maybe we're seeing everything in like 4K ultra definition nowadays? Is it because we've just seen CG and so we're more hard on it? I don't know. The CG to me looks fine. It isn't anything mind-blowing, but I guess I just don't have the eye to notice if it's just, you know, bad versus good. I remember Terminator 2 being unbelievably awesome and groundbreaking, but that was also 20 years ago. Now, they supposedly brought back Ed Furlong at some point. We have not seen him in any trailers. I'm guessing he plays a tiny role, if anything. They've replaced her with this young girl who is uninspiring so far, in my opinion. They end up, like, joining forces to protect the girl, which is exactly what all the Terminator movies do. And then, at some point, you know, even this CG where the, I don't know, T800 or whatever, or T1000, I'm not sure exactly what the model number is going to be on this, does this cool splitty thing, and the CG doesn't look that good, according to some people. Then we have this guy, what does everyone call him? T1000. Does not look intimidating. Now, here's the thing. If you have, like, this crazy cybernetic power, you wouldn't need to be, like, a hulking dude like Arnold was back in the day. But there's still that, like, mental disconnect where you're like, this dude does not look scary at all. But, you know what? If you go back to the original T1000, he was kind of a scrawny dude, too. Then there's lots of chase scenes. This is a good freeze frame right here. Let's, oh, that's going to be a good thumbnail, I think. Let's see. Boop. That looks great. That looks great. I love it. There's a fight scene here. Lots of flannel. I mean, the fight scene is fine. The CG doesn't look great. Then you get this scene, which is raising a lot of questions. We don't know. We don't know what is going on with the authorities here, but she attacks them. Now, maybe, just like in the original Terminator, they did something to provoke it. It's entirely possible. If we're going with what we're seeing in the film later, the officers might be like, "Hey, pretty lady," and then she'll be like, "Ah, it's ma'am." I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's something like that. Then you have here, there's people that appear to be trying to care for her, and then she beats them all up. And then here's a weird thing. Are they at like a border wall here? It's definitely like some sort of security wall you see behind them. Could just be a regular fence, but you'll see why maybe I think that later. You go through, and then here's a scene where they end up at this log cabin in the woods, and you see Papa Arnold. He has some cosmetic damage. So I don't know. I know there's some lore for like kind of their suit degrading over time, like the organic parts of their suit. So that could be just what we're seeing here. Could he be like the original scientist that designed them? I don't know. Is he still the robot? Probably. Sarah Connor immediately tries to sawed off his face. Speculation here. Maybe he ended John Connor. Maybe that's why Sarah Connor hates him so much. I mean, obviously she never liked him, but also, you know, what happened, you know, he went down into the lava. There's so many questions that, you know, they removed everything but Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 from canon. So there's a lot of questions as to like, how did he get here? I'm assuming the movie will answer them. Here's another good. Here, let's go. Oh, this is great. This is great. Totally professional. We're gonna go this, and then we're gonna maybe look at this. This looks pretty good. Scary old lady, mad at robot dude. I think that's pretty good for a thumbnail. He agrees to help them, which is fine. And then you have this character, which still has, like, no personality, at least in the trailer. Then he presses on a button, and all of a sudden she becomes a super weapons machine, although she's not even shouldering that arm very well at all. It's, like, on the top of her shoulder. This is something... And what's with all the flannel? I'm not sure about all that. Obviously, the two robots don't need any hearing protection, so maybe that's another indicator that he's, in fact, a robot. You have Tim Miller, former Deadpool guy. Now here's where some possible issues are. There's this scene too. Okay, nobody. So you're basically at a border patrol facility here, and you have T-1000. I don't know if they're trying to say anything here. I don't know. I don't. But given everything we know about today's modern cinema, I think it would be reasonable for you to wonder, and then like everybody that works there happens to look like this. Just saying. Here's another like fat white guy. So everybody that works at this facility is a fat white guy, and then T-1000 just crushes everybody. And notice that there are people in cages. I don't know. Every one of these Border Patrol agents are white. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. Everyone else in the movie seems to be, other than just T-1000. So maybe not. Laminator then basically chops up the T-1000, and you get some funny lines. You know, I do like the dynamic between these two. I think that will be an endearing thing in the film. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to play on the original Terminator fans. I admit, the first time I watched this trailer, I was like, it's not that bad. And then I sat on it for about 20 minutes. I was like, oh, wait, you're just really happy to see Schwarzenegger back reprising his role. That's what it was. And that's exactly what Star Wars does to bring people in. I mean, this looks more like a Gone in 60 Seconds film than it does a Terminator film to me. You know, the lady Terminator is very unlikable, I think, in all the trailers. Again, that could be just bad trailers. I don't know. I have no interest. By the way, a lot of people who are reviewing this are like, oh, I'm still going to... No, I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to pay $15 at the cinema to see what I'm sure will be 4 seconds of fan service and then a completely different, completely worse movie. That's what it looks like to me. You know, this scene with Arnold at like point blank with the T-1000 unloading a clip is pretty awesome. That looks cool. Otherwise, I don't know. Then you have at the end, you have Sarah Connor saying, "I'll be back," later. They should have saved that probably for the movie, because they've showed so much of the movie in these 2 trailers that it's a question of whether or not I even want to see it. Look at some of the top comments. I bet this trailer showed 75% of the movie. Bold of you to give us the full movie and expect us to watch it in theaters now. It's so totally off. It's closer to Transformers movie than a Terminator movie. It's just so weird. It looks like they mashed together the first 3 instead of coming up with an original plot. I love the smell of the flopping. People do not like it. Now, who are these 47,000 people who upvoted it? They could be purchased. They could be bots. You could say the same of those that downvoted. To me, I've seen absolutely nothing that makes this film seem worthy of my $15 other than Schwarzenegger. If I saw like a third trailer and I saw that he was like in 30 or 40% of the movie, I might matinee this. I might $5 budget theater this if he was in like 30% of the film. If he's just this thing that they prop up to try and sell this new storyline like they've done with Star Wars, I'm absolutely not interested. I'm guessing, prediction, this will get in the 60s for critic reviews. Maybe, I mean, I'll give myself a 10% margin of error. I would be very surprised if it was higher than 70, but I'd also be surprised if it was lower than 50 because of the cast. Let's just put it that way. I'm interested in seeing what you have to say in the comment section down below. We'll talk to you again real soon. Hey, if you're still hanging out, there's a subscribe button right on the screen right now. Make sure to click that, turn notifications on. And if you want to see the next video, that should also be hovering around the screen. Thanks so much for watching this and for supporting the channel. What are you waiting for? Subscribe. And, you know, turn on notifications.
Another successful mission. Find extraction.
Studios.
Party boys don't get hurt, can't feel anything will I learn. Push it down, push it down. I'm the one for a good time call, folks blowing up, ring my doorbell, feel the love, feel the love. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Throw back to the loudest cow. I'm gonna swing from the chandelier, chandelier. I'm gonna live like tomorrow doesn't exist, doesn't exist. I'm gonna fly like a bird through the night. My kiss is a dream. I'm gonna swing from the chandelier, chandelier. But I'm holding on for the life. Won't look down, won't open my eyes. Keep my dashboard until morning light. 'Cause I'm just holding up for tonight. Help me, I'm holding on for the life. Won't look down, won't open my eyes. Keep my dashboard until morning light. 'Cause I'm just holding on for tonight, on for tonight. Sun is up, I'm a mess. Gotta get out now, gotta run from this. Here comes the shame, comes the shame. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Throw back to the loudest crowd. I'm gonna swing from the chandelier, chandelier. I'm gonna live like tomorrow doesn't exist, doesn't exist. I'm gonna fly like a bird through the night. My kiss is a dream.
Objective has been secured. You've done your part, Tenno. We'll take it from here.
The snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. Kingdom of isolation, when it looks like I am the queen. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I've tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small. And fear someone's control me can't get to me at all. It's hard to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway.
There is a prisoner here that is key to our operations. Search for the holding location.
It's hard to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go, let it go.
Find it as soon as you can. You don't have much time.
Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. Cold never bothered me anyway.
Hi guys, here. Please support me by subscribing, sharing, writing a YouTube, well, check out my page on the site. Depending on all you guys for lessons that I have to prioritize.
You are approaching the holding area. Careful. If the wardens detect you, they will surely initiate the execution sequence. Search each hostage.
Better run, you better do what you can. Don't wanna see no brother be a macho man. You wanna be tough, better do what you can. So beat it, but you wanna be bad. Just beat it. No one wants to be defeated. So not lucky, strong is your fight. It doesn't matter who's wrong or right. Just beat it.
Located the hostage. Escort the prisoner to the extraction point, and I'll take care of the rest.
Nora is all about incentivizing. That's all from me.
Thanks for watching. If you're thinking, God damn, I need to support this guy, just check the links in the video description. Thanks so much for all your patience and everyone's time and listening. And I'll see you later.
Remember, you can buy my songs on the interweb. That's what people say. I go on too many days, but I can make them stay. At least that's what people say. That's what people say. But I keep cruising. Yes, I won't stop moving. Like I got this feeling. It's not alright. Because the players gonna play. When the fingers gonna break.
Let's go on the offensive.
In all the right places. I see the magazines working that Photoshop. We know that shit ain't real. Come on now, make it stop. You got beauty, just raise it up. Every inch of you is perfect from the bottom to the top. Yeah, my mama, she told me don't worry about the size. She just feels like a little more bully to roll at night. You know I won't be no secret.
We're done here. The extraction team will take over from here. Time to evacuate.
I'm all about the bass, about the bass. I'm all about the bass, about the bass. I'm all about the bass, about the bass. I'm bringing booty back. Go ahead and tell the skinny bitches hey. Now I'm just playing, know you think I'm fair. But I'm here to tell you every inch of you is perfect from the bottom to the top. Yeah, my mama, she told me don't worry about the size. She says girls like a little more bully to hold at night. You know I won't be no stick figure chillin' Barbie doll. So if that's what you're into, then go ahead and move along. Because you know I'm all about the bass, about the bass. I'm all about the bass, about the bass. I'm all about the bass, about the bass. I'm all about the bass, about the bass.
Hi guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and check out my Patreon site. See ya!
You are here to find it and bring them to the extraction point. Happy hunting. You found a target. Capture them quickly before they escape. Looks like heavy activity ahead. Scans indicate it is in the vicinity. Find them. Excellent work. We'll interrogate the cat back at base. Your part is done here, Kenna.
Do you feel the next world?
Orders have completed a pounding task. No, don't mention it.
You are here to find our target and bring them to the extraction point. Happy hunting.
So, the Corpus are just a cult, worshipping money.
Target located. Bring them in. The capture target has vital information that we will need to extract. We need our subject brought back alive. Mission complete. Captive has been escorted to the extraction point. Well done.
I used to bite my tongue and hold my breath. Stand around and make a mess. So nice and quietly. A sweet polite. I forgot I had a choice. And if you push me past the breaking point, I should but not fail. So I fell away. Down, I got up. You hear my voice, you hear that sound. Like nothing gonna shake me down. Held me down, but I got up. Get ready, cause I had enough. I seen it all, I see it now. I got the eye of the tiger. Dancing through the fire. 'Cause I am a champion. And you're gonna hear me roar. Louder, louder than the tiger. 'Cause I am a champion. And you're gonna hear me roar. Now I'm floating like a butterfly, singing like a bee. I earned my stripes. Went from zero to my own hero. You held me down, but I got up. Already brushing up that dust. You hear my voice, you hear that sound. Like thunder gonna shake your ground. You held me down, but I got up. Get ready, cause I had enough. I seen it all, I seen it now. I got the eye of the tiger. Dancing through the fire. 'Cause I am a champion. And you're gonna hear me roar. Louder, louder than the lion. 'Cause I am a champion. And you're gonna hear me roar.
Operator, did you hear that? It said... Cosmic background radiation is a riot!
Let's go!
Position has been compromised. Defend the cargo until reinforcements arrive.
My Warframe is the hand, and I am the blade.
Thanks for watching my video. Hopefully you enjoy it. You want to support me? You can also pick up my Patreon site, which is the site support me per video I make. No?
if y'all ain't my favorite brand of free-range lunatic. Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. As usual, if you want to support me in any way, please subscribe or buy my music, or most of all, check out my Patreon site for extra support. All links are in the video description, and I'll see you later. Hi guys, I did something different today. I created this metal cover using only Toontrack products. If you want to know how and why I did this, stick around till the end of the song.
I made it through the